All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here, of course, for My Hero Academia. Episode 24 of season
24.
2. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys. This is the second to the last episode of the season.
Yep.
Wow.
And in this episode,
We got Bakugo and Deku versus All Might. Oh my gosh. Like, do you think this could be a two-parter, actually? Because... Like, it being the second to last one.
they could. I don't think so, though. They didn't do it.
Watch.
They
All
didn't
for
do a
one,
two-parter
everyone's going
for-
to attack while these guys are fighting. No, that's not going to happen.
No, they're not. No. But I mean, like, okay, episode 10 was a single episode.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So this is going to be a single episode.
But there could be some conversations in this that take it beyond, just the fight kind of thing. Because we need to get more depth into these two characters and their dynamic together.
Exactly, particularly
Bakugo.
And I feel like though that could be done in the next episode as basically not as like a recap, but basically them sort of processing maybe what happens in this episode.
Exactly.
I'm excited though to see terrifying All Might, pretending to be a villain.
With the shadows in his eyes.
The shadows that are not protective anymore, but now are scary and dangerous.
That part where he's like, "You're underestimating us," and he's like, "Ha ha ha." Maybe it's like, "Oh no." Yeah. Do you think
they actually win though?
Do you think they're gonna win? Like, do you think they'll at the very least win or run away? Like, I think they have to run away. I don't think they can win.
They have to run away, but it's too fast.
Like, the idea is that I think it's a question of right now whether or not they will run away or be beaten. Like,
I think All Might has to go kind of easy on them because otherwise, one, he'll kill them, but also two, otherwise it would just be unfair. Even with the weights or whatever that he has.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way. Like, he's All Might.
What are some of the things that we predicted this episode? Because I feel like we had some things that were really good ideas of how this could go, in that one of them could end up helping the other.
Right. The idea that they can win even if they lose if they basically work together.
Right.
And
exactly.
hopefully this will maybe be an area where Deku can basically earn a bit of Bakugo's respect as Bakugo learns that, hey, Deku is actually, a person that might be helpful in a fight and stuff like that.
At the very least, he's going to be reliable.
Right. Because so far they communicate on such different wavelengths. Any kind of cooperation between them is sort of doomed to fail.
Right.
And, it's Bakugo's fault, but I mean,
it's not entirely his fault, but it's
it takes
97% his fault.
But it's 97% his fault.
Right, exactly. I could see them losing. I just don't think that they're gonna do it because I feel like this is the type of show where they want this to be a feel good kind of thing. If they want to end this season on a really downer, kind of dreadful note, then it could be kind of an ominous thing of you're not even close to ready to face All for One if you can't handle me going easy on you. The idea that All Might reveals at the end, by the way, I never access more than 10% of my power. And it's oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay, here's...
With the weights on him.
Right. Now, okay, so I see there's the possibility that they lose and they don't work together. They win and they work together. They win and they don't work together, or they lose but they work together. I think the most likely is that they lose and they work together.
Oh no! I think it's going to be more happy in that they'll win and they'll work together, or they'll lose and they work together.
Okay, yeah. Now, if they lose and they work together, if they win and they work together, then that's an obvious way of how they can become closer because Bakugo just looks at results, right?
Right.
So if they're able to actually win together, then of course he'll see Deku in maybe a slightly different light.
Right.
If they lose and they work together, though, I think one of the ways that they can make it so that Bakugo respects Deku a bit more is that maybe he sees that a lot of the stuff that he does actually ends up getting in the way.
Sure.
Because
that doesn't seem like Bakugo. It seems like Bakugo wouldn't acknowledge his own weakness. It would be that he would get mad that Deku wasn't fast enough or something like that.
Sure. Or maybe get mad that he wasn't strong enough to take All Might on by himself. Or...
No, I'm talking stuff where Deku needs to be, following in this regard.
Right.
And that actually would be really interesting if Deku kind of humbled himself and was like, "Fine, I'll follow your lead."
Dance to your music. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. And Deku is, of the two, Deku's the one that's actually has a possibility of doing that. So.
That's true. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this episode and see how it all goes. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, the shadows are all over. Yeah. Holy crap. He's acting like a villain.
Yep.
He's smiling, but they're both scared. Holy crap.
Oh boy. Yep. Completely ineffective.
Oh! Oh!
And at that point, he would be dead if this was an actual fight.
Yeah. Wow. Whoa.
Oh!
Ah, sure.
Okay. Oh, that is a great point.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. He's never said that's what it means to be a hero before.
Uh-huh.
What the heck? Whoa! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Right. Whoa.
Ooh.
He's trying to be the teacher still.
Uh-huh. And he's talking on Bakugo's level. Not that he wants to listen, of course.
Right. Oh, the vomit on his face.
Uh-huh.
Holy crap. Whoa. Yeah!
Okay! Nice.
Oh, cool. Oh. Oh, he doesn't have one of the gloves. He doesn't have one of the gauntlets.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Uh-huh. Nice.
Nice!
Okay.
Oh. The impact.
Yeah.
That's great. Hit
That's
and run.
awesome.
そうさ二人とも本来ならクレバーな男たちなのに互いのこととなると途端に破綻してしまうさてと
Yes.
人生
Oh, that look.
No.
No. Uh-huh. Yeah, and the smoke
Yeah.
behind them.
He jumped.
Whoa! Oh!
Holy crap!
Oh!
Holy crap! Oh!
Oh boy!
Oh my gosh!
That doesn't work that way.
Jeez.
圧倒的な速度耐久力もパワーも圧倒的にシンプルな強さ
Yeah.
対峙して改めてわかる
Is he gonna see the blood from?
No, he's reminded of that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
USJ.
最強のヒーローだ
終わりだ
うるせえ
Oh, nice.
Oh, when he, yeah, overuses himself.
ぶっ飛ばす
Yes. Holy crap. Die.
Oh,
Yes.
he's learning from the minefield.
Yeah.
オールマイトが宙に浮いている今ならゴールを
New Hampshire smash. Oh. Huh. Huh. Ow. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Wow.
It's hurting his arms.
In a way, his power is very similar to Deku's.
Yeah.
体育祭で見せた特大火力二度も行けデク林野立てそかせ
Oh!
痛くても進め
Go, Deku,
Go, 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 go!
向かえばオールマイトは僕を
No, stop thinking. Just do it.
Yep.
ガッチャンならそ
Oh, no.
Oh!
Oh, get
Yeah.
wrecked. Oh.
But that-
そういう身を滅ぼすやり方は悪いな
Oh, yeah.
トラウマもんでね
はよ行けやクソ
Oh.
俺って自分をねじ曲げてでも選んだ勝ち方でそれすら叶わねえなんて
Oh.
怖
Oh.
い時不安な時
Oh!
Yes!
望むんだ
Yes, he's coming back for him!
どいてくださいオールマイト
そう
Oh!
そうだよ初めからそうだ
Wow.
Okay.
君は救いを求め
Yeah.
る者をどうしよう
Yeah,
も
such a
なく
great
助けて
callback. Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
そしてそ
Yep.
の時そこに壁など一つもないんだ
オールマイト、あんた本当に
Seriously.
強く打ってたら取り返しのつかんことに
Mm.
And, yeah.
Villains.
Mm-hmm.
気になりますかしがらみ人
Oh.
その少年緑谷いずく
Oh, yeah.
生で見ると気色は
Speak for
Wow.
yourself, man. Ugh!
仲間だよね私も入れてよヴィラン連合
Her fangs.
奴らが見たび動き出す退けるたびに力を増して
That was fantastic.
I really like how they handled that.
Oh my gosh.
That's, you know, that was a great definition of a hero from Bakugo. Like, because, like, I can kind of get behind that. Like, he takes it to some extremes, but it's like, yeah, that's why heroes are so heroic to us, right? You know, because
Right.
they always win. They always, you know, pull through and beat the bad guy.
Right. And not only that, did you sense kind of the bit where he's explaining a little bit of why he is the way he is, because he twists himself and breaks himself in order to win.
Yep.
It's the idea that Bakugo needs to be the way he is personality-wise in order to have the drive to win. Because
Right.
if he holds on to those things that Midoriya deems to be important, he
Then
feels
he won't
like
push
that
himself.
he won't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He won't actually become the greatest
Yeah.
hero. It's the idea that he can't rely on other people because he is the one that's going to be the greatest hero. It's not going to be
Yeah.
him and someone else.
Right.
It's going to be him indisputably.
Yeah.
And I think what people have been trying to tell us about the depth of Bakugo is that even his persona, the idea that he is this angry asshole, just is because he's pushing every bit of himself by any means necessary to be the greatest hero,
Yeah.
meaning the hero that cannot lose, meaning
Right.
meaning the,
The
one
invincible
that wins,
hero.
the invincible hero. Yes,
Yeah.
and that's not possible right now.
Right.
But the idea is that his willpower needs to be focused so that he believes that will happen eventually.
regardless of circumstances
Exactly.
or environment or anything.
Nothing will stop him.
Yeah.
So we got a very, very, I would say, foundational bit of complex data for Bakugo's why. Because it's not that complex in and of itself.
Right, but it's the idea that with his development, it's more of the digging roots down deeper into who he is rather
Right.
than changing,
Yeah.
which is really good because it would feel a bit strange if Bakugo started not being Bakugo. Like,
Right. It's the idea that this is not the culmination of just him being told he's amazing and all that. It's the idea that he was told he was amazing, so he believed in himself.
and
a
he
lot.
acted accordingly.
And he acted accordingly. And what he acted upon was the idea that All Might was this inspirational, invincible force of good. And he said, that I will be better than.
right.
Because of course I can be. Like,
Yeah,
there's
'cause I
nothing
can
I
do
can't
anything.
do. That
Yeah.
I can do anything.
Right.
So he looks at All Might and goes, All Might, you're incredible. But I can tell that you don't have the same drive I do. Like, you don't have the
Okay.
I will do what is necessary kind of thing. So your time is limited in that I will eventually be better than you. And of course, he's a little bit in some delusion on the time frame of when this is happening.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
that delusion might be necessary in order for him to be pushing himself
as
and
much
never,
as he can every moment.
Yes, and never settle really for
Right.
anything less than the best.
Yeah.
So it's compelling, but he needs to have moments like this more often where
Exactly.
he has to break himself in order to push forward.
Yep.
Because in those breaking points, in those lowest points,
That's
you're
when you actually grow.
You're actually going to grow the most there. It's just
Yep.
like muscle fibers tearing when you go to do a workout.
Right.
In fact, I think that's the weakness of his quirk. It's the idea that the explosions have their recoil effect, and if he does an explosion that kicks back too much recoil, his muscles tear and break. Because
Sure.
that sound effect was so painful to hear. That
Yeah. Well, and
it sounded like when you're doing push-ups, you know, and your
elbows like
elbows
get
start
that
to
creak.
click and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It's like, oh.
Well,
ugh.
and okay, if you think about it, the way the body actually creates energy for motion
Yes.
is actually very similar to Bakugo's quirk.
It is.
It's
that's
just on a
true.
much smaller scale. It's breaks it down into, I believe it's called ATP, which is some chemical compound, and then it basically ignites it with and then So it's stored immediately where it's going to be used, right? And in the case of Bakugo, it's his sweat, right?
Right.
So, and it creates very explosive, exertions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that if he uses that too much, it would actually cause bodily harm.
Right.
In the same way that, it would for
Deku.
for Deku, yeah. I love that they did that because they're so complete opposites as far as who they are as people.
Right.
But their powers are actually kind of similar. And it draws that parallel that needs to be drawn, that they have a lot more in common than they think.
Right.
And that they need to work together.
Right.
Which is how powers should be used in a shonen, to bring out aspects of the characters that might not have otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. It's the idea that you have infinite potential story combinations by just mixing and matching which characters are going to appear on screen and do stuff together.
Right.
And Bakugo and Deku is a very
it's
very very high potential combination in terms of things that can happen.
Right, not just in plot. Yeah.
All Might was scary though.
He was.
My gosh. Because there were moments where I feel like if this wasn't a shonen, I would have been like, okay, that guy's back is broken.
Right.
Or like,
yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where All Might had to very much go easy on them, and Recovery Girl was like, you should have gone easier on them because you banged them up pretty good.
well, I think actually the point is that something happened to Deku's back in that part where he New Hampshire smashed backwards into him and slammed him into the car. Also, the part where Bakugo got punched into the building. Yeah, he should have been like down for the count right there.
Well, anytime that, or just anytime that All Might grabbed Bakugo's face
and slammed him into the ground,
or just did anything really, but the superpowers of inertia that everyone has, no matter what.
Right, but the idea that they made the point of how Bakugo was still able to move, whereas Deku wasn't that well after receiving less hits than Bakugo, I think is to point out that Bakugo's endurance is directly tied to his
quirk.
Tied to his, not only his quirk, but his desire to be the hero that wins no matter what.
Right. He is the shonen protagonist.
He is the shonen protagonist. And one of those things that I think is good to remember is that as a sort of kind of mock parody on the shonen protagonist that he can't lose. Like, it's the idea that he will have moments where he breaks, but he will never lose. And I think that's a very good difference to point out. It's the idea that he can be beaten, but he'll still win in the end. It's this thing of where
like
Bakugo
beaten
is...
but not broken kind of a thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's where he'll always get knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
He'll always have like the deck stacked against him in specific areas or times, but he will come through. And I think about that from like a narrative perspective in the big picture, and I see points in the future where Bakugo saves Deku.
Oh, I could definitely
like the idea that Deku would end up getting targeted by some point, like by the villains, because they find out he has one for all,
right? And
Bakugo basically. Not necessarily goes on we must save Deku,
but he just goes ham on the villains.
He goes ham on the villains, and the villains are like, what is this kid? We can't stop him. Or there's one person who has a quirk that's insanely strong and just starts beating down Bakugo, and Bakugo just keeps getting back up and up and up and up and up again and again and again.
Yep.
I
right,
really
because if he can... Now, granted, it was an exam. It probably would have gone a bit differently if All Might had actually been trying to kill them.
But, he would have killed them both.
No, not just that he would have killed them both, but I think that Bakugo probably would have acted a little bit differently.
Yes, sure.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But still, even so, he was pinned to the ground by All Might, his body was spent, and he still's biting All Might's hand.
That part, actually, I could tell that was supposed to be a feels moment because I felt them.
Oh, I did too.
But one of the things that they did in this episode was they held back, I think, on going too far into Bakugo's backstory.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do more, but this part is like, no, there's other parts, and we're not going to get into that yet.
Possibly. I also could see it being something where they're basically saying, there is no way Bakugo would let his past define him. Like, the idea that backstory would play such an integral part in his life, it's like, no.
Integral.
Integral. I said integral, right?
You kind of did, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
pretty sure I did.
I'm just laughing because it's that word again.
Yeah. But it's more of like, okay, this is where he started. This was the initial, like, fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just basically took that and ran with it. Like...
Right, but I feel like he kept adding to the flame over time.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
It's the idea that there are other points in his backstory where the flame was built up to be something more.
Sure.
It's the idea that not all of this came from that specific moment of him watching the TV. It's the idea that Bakugo's backstory involves other factors as well, and we still haven't met his parents yet.
That's true,
So,
and because Bakugo's parents, like...
That's where his quirk came from, so...
That's true.
We know that there has to be some connection there.
Well, and also that's probably where a lot of his, beliefs about the world and himself and all that stuff came from, too. Because that does tend to happen.
Yeah, very, very true.
Yeah.
But this episode really went into the idea that Bakugo has a very different perspective on All Might than Deku does, but he's also now added to the list of many characters that is inspired by All Might as a kid.
Yep.
And
another death flag.
But what that also means is that the transitional arc when All Might eventually leaves the story is such that Deku will be the new All Might to all these people. It's the idea that all these people that look up to All Might are eventually going to have to look up to Deku.
And for Bakugo
in particular, that's going to be very, very hard for him.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine, like, what's going to happen when Bakugo finds out
that Deku has All Might's quirk?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was... Okay.
I can't imagine.
It is going to be awesome. It is going to be so amazing. I'm going to love it.
Wow.
Now, did you notice that it seemed, at least to me, when they were in the hospital room, that they were making a point of showing All Might, like, coughing back there when you would think he would have, like, maybe recovered a bit more by then. Which made me think that they were hinting that basically Bakugo was actually not unconscious at that point and that he was perceiving that All Might was getting weaker.
No.
Like, I mean, it wouldn't make sense because Recovery Girl was saying, he's unconscious. I don't know when he's going to wake up.
No.
But
I think the only thing that stood out for me as weird in that whole scene was the size of that syringe. Yeah. I was like, that's dumb. Like,
and I think we've seen that before, but that just a bit big.
Yeah. I think that Bakugo's being knocked out was a clear sign of actually the fact that All Might kind of overstepped his bounds and tried to teach Bakugo in the middle of the exam, which is kind of what Aizawa did.
Yeah.
And I think Aizawa shouldn't have done that if he was doing that. It's kind of one of those things where they left it to be kind of ambiguous with Aizawa,
right.
but no, it was very clear that All Might was basically saying it's diminutive to it's condescending to Bakugo to stop the fight, be like, I've punched you so hard you puked your guts out. Now I'm going to teach you and speak to you in the middle of this whole thing.
I don't know, he might have just been in the villain role of monologuing a bit.
No, he was very clearly trying to teach him.
Yeah.
And the idea that is so not the way you're supposed to do things with Bakugo in particular, in that he gets way more out of showing than telling.
I think he had just been showing. What's the point?
No, I get that. I get that. Yeah, absolutely. But Bakugo needs people around him that are willing to show him what it's like to be a hero constantly, rather than people that are wanting to tell him how he's not a hero or how he could be a better hero.
Sure.
That is one of the things that I feel like is a very common thing of someone that's character is rooted in pride. In the idea that you can't combat the pride because of how insidious it is by just stating you're proud. You need to actually take the more patient, humble route of just showing what it's like to be a hero and showing what you want to teach them rather than just telling them, because Bakugo's stubbornness will keep him from actually being able to learn those things, and he'll actually end up rejecting it more.
Well, okay, I like that. With the case of Bakugo, though, like, he's so intensely focused on, like, one particular thing. Like, you can try and show him stuff and everything, but he'll see what he wants to see.
Yeah, that's my point. You don't try and mess with the person's interpretation. You keep showing them. Eventually, they'll interpret it the right way. Even if they don't, the idea that All Might basically is trying to guide him this way is, I think, showing just a little bit of a weakness in All Might's part, that he's not willing to be patient, I think. And this fight was kind of an example of that. And the idea that they feel the impending sense of doom because the villains are coming.
Right.
He's trying to shove as much teaching into them as possible at the end, and kind of give Bakugo a rude awakening, specifically being like, you're not that strong, buddy. Which I think is great, but that's showing. That's not telling. Well, he doesn't need to tell him that I'm better than you.
Sure, but
he knows that.
But I would say at the same time, in the situation that they were in, if All Might really wanted to show Bakugo, the best way, the most effective way, would have been to go just short of killing him. Because the way Bakugo perceives things is he...
Okay, Jacob, are you thinking about short-term or long-term? Because imagine if your father, for instance, just decided, I'm going to teach you...
No. That's taking it way into another situation.
Okay.
Because in a traditional sense, if a father were to try and teach someone something, one, they would show and they would also tell. And you're saying that All Might was doing both. He shouldn't have done that. He should have just shown.
And the way I think specifically with Bakugo, it's less effective to tell.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm 100% on board with you with that. That, Bakugo, words don't really... They don't mean nearly as much to him as action does. And the action that he respects...
Also, it's a universal thing that actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. But I think that in this situation, because All Might had to basically beat Bakugo down so that he would realize that, hey, you're not all that strong.
Sure.
But then at the same time, make sure that he didn't actually, really hurt him.
Right, that's not just short of killing someone, Jacob. You're taking it too far.
Sure.
Because then you would paralyze them and make them a vegetable. That's just short of killing someone.
But the point is that with the way that Bakugo learns, he would not learn except by basically rough treatment, but All Might cannot get too rough with him. So at that point, he was basically saying, this is all I'm really wanting to do to Bakugo right now. But of course Bakugo's super stubborn, so then he keeps fighting and he has to go a bit harder on him.
Yeah, that's fine. But none of that recommends that you actually tell anything. Because telling...
Wouldn't it?
No, because I feel like when you have a person that has this much arrogance and pride in them, what they end up doing is they see everyone else around them as being someone lower. So Bakugo doesn't see All Might as being lower until All Might shows him, I am the impossible wall that you're trying to jump over. Once he does that, he doesn't need to ruin it by telling him. Bakugo already knows. It's one of the ideas that I feel like people were trying to tell me, is that Bakugo is intelligent. It's kind of the same way as we were talking about Adam with Ruby, is that Bakugo is intelligent. He is not necessarily wise. It's the idea that he is tactical, but he's not necessarily strategic. Because the idea that he's not looking at the big picture, and he's not looking at these tools and these people that can be useful, very useful in helping accelerate his growth to becoming the greatest hero, it's a clear sign of his immaturity and pride. Yeah. So trying to break that down is just it's kind of like wasteful energy in them attacking All Might from Deku's perspective. What they could do instead is focus on those areas where Bakugo has the fragile parts, and you focus on reinforcing those areas in particular, or also showing him like, hey, you need to work on this area. Like, don't just, I'm stronger than you, or get rid of your pride. Like, hey, like, let's look at this area in particular where you're actually really weak in, because you want to be the greatest hero, right? You're going to have to figure out how this gets solved. And I feel like that's more of the counselor's approach than the All Might approach. All Might isn't really a teacher or a counselor. He's kind of...
it's kind of established that he's not a great teacher.
He's kind of the inspirational Kamina figure, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he can back it up. He's not just words.
Right.
And I think when All Might takes action, he says things that are more powerful to those watching than their words. Like, a lot of the people, when they go and they say, All Might, what's so inspirational about him? It's the things that he does, not just him yelling plus ultra in a very cool way.
Sure.
So I was just saying, like, yeah.
No, I thought.
I went on for a bit about that.
I would have been surprised and a little bit disappointed if All Might hadn't said anything to Bakugo.
I'm in agreement, Jacob.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that All Might is not effective at teaching Bakugo anything. It's the idea that when he starts speaking, he lessens his ability to already not be able to teach Bakugo that well. It's the idea that I feel like Aizawa was actually teaching Bakugo better when Bakugo went to go bully Deku in like the third or fourth, I think it was like the fifth episode actually.
Oh yeah,
Aizawa's just like nope, and he just sits around him, and it's this idea that Bakugo never bullied Deku again in the rest of the show, except for when they're actually like fighting, and that's fighting. It doesn't count. But that was Aizawa's only action he had to do.
Right. But that was a very similar thing to what All Might did. He basically showed Bakugo.
Aizawa didn't talk though.
Yeah, he did.
Like, not much actually. If you go back and look at it, Aizawa didn't like specifically like try to teach him with words that well.
No, it was more of like almost like a threat of like, don't you ever use like quirks, like on students in this class or whatever.
He didn't say that. Go back and rewatch it.
He said something.
Go back and rewatch it.
I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something specifically to Bakugo.
He actually said something specifically about, why are you guys making me use my quirks so much? He didn't actually say much of anything to Bakugo.
Okay, well,
and I thought it was weird until I realized that, wait a minute, he might have accidentally stumbled upon the best way to teach Bakugo anything, is that he respects that strength. He respects those actions that people take and go, I take these actions unapologetically because of who I am as a hero.
Yeah.
And all this to say, I'm with you in that those were actions consistent with All Might's character. They were good for All Might specifically to say that, but they weren't received well by Bakugo.
Right. Big
in
surprise.
any way. Yeah, big surprise, right? I was offering an alternative for how, if anyone wants to teach Bakugo in the future, this is how they should do it. Not the way All Might did it.
Locking him up Hannibal Lecter style and just putting the first place medal around his head.
I'm still a little bit kind of about that, because I'm a fan of the idea of, if someone, like, say if someone did a horrible thing, rather than ruining their life for like 20 years in prison for I don't know, like doing some kind of dumb accident.
Right, give them the negative recognition sort of of what they did. Yeah.
Like, public humiliation was a thing back in the medieval times. It's not a great psychological thing, but it's the idea that I'd say it gives people more of an opportunity than some certain jail sentences for certain crimes nowadays.
Yeah.
And was that right for them to do that to Bakugo? I'm not sure, but...
Right. Well, I think
it might have been effective. Who knows?
It probably was effective. And I think the other idea for that, too, was that Bakugo wouldn't have actually gone to the podium, like the stage for first place, if they hadn't, like, restrained him and, like, brought him there.
Well, yeah, that's why they did that.
Right.
But the idea is that...
Yeah, completely unnecessary.
That's a thing where Bakugo didn't consent to that.
Right.
It was a thing where they forced it down. It's kind of like if you see someone that's eating unhealthy, and and you basically lock them up and start shoving healthy food down their throat.
That doesn't work.
That's really not cool.
No.
It's that idea where Bakugo is different because he's in a competition that he did sign up for. So yes, he has to get first place and stuff because he won. But there have been accounts of people where they did some sort of a protest on like an Olympic style stage. There's a couple ones in particular that are quite popular. There's one in particular I know most people should know about. Right. And that I think is good to have happen because they earned that platform by their actions in the competition.
So they can, if they want to, spurn it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they might not get good things happening to them afterwards by the...
But that's their choice.
But that's their choice, exactly.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's the thing I'm more of a little bit kind of happy and kind of like, that was a little bit risky, All Might, was the idea that they made this choice and Bakugo chose to fight instead of running away. And All Might said, that's your choice. Okay, here are the consequences. Boom! Boom!
Yeah.
So, of course, Bakugo gets hurt more than Deku.
Right.
But, oh man, I'm glad he didn't go just short of killing him, Jacob.
Right.
He held back a lot.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that there was no permanent injury, I was kind of surprised by.
Me too. What I was originally thinking is that they were basically going to say, okay, All Might's weights were actually way heavier than everyone else's, and I think they still did that.
Well, of course they were. He's the heaviest person. It's half his body weight.
No, but that it wasn't half his body weight for All Might because All Might has insane strength.
Right.
That they had it be something else, right? And they probably did do that.
Maybe, but it doesn't
otherwise
really matter.
All Might would have felt it.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But but they handled it very well. The idea of fighting All Might.
Yeah, and there's specific moments in the fight with All Might where they used really clever tactics to try and actually stop him, and he's just unstoppable.
Nope.
And then finally when they made it be about, I think it was the second or third episode where Deku saves Bakugo from the sludge monster and inspires All Might to act.
Yeah, that was the second one, yeah.
Right, it's the idea that we can invert the situation and have All Might be the sludge monster. Bakugo is there,
right?
And now Deku has the actual abilities of the hero to do the things that he needs to do. But he, like All Might at that time, was not at 100%. He was not ready for that kind of thing, and yet he jumped in anyway.
Exactly. And one of the things that I love about how they set this up as a parallel is that once Deku has a quirk now, then it's very different than how it was with the sludge monster.
Absolutely.
Because there was absolutely nothing that he could do himself against the sludge monster. And that's what made it...
Except throw his notebook in his eye!
Yeah, exactly.
20!
Right. But that was what made it so great, because he was truly doing the hero thing.
Right.
He was being self-sacrificial to save someone.
Meddling when he didn't need to.
Meddling when he didn't need to, all to save somebody that hated him.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was something very similar because they made it be All Might. There's no way that Deku could have beaten All Might, and that's the point. But he went to go help Bakugo anyways.
Also, he didn't need to meddle with that because they could have won by him just running through the entrance.
But the heroes are the people that meddle, even when they don't have to.
So that's the good thing to show when All Might goes and kind of gives his little monologue as Deku's running away with Bakugo unconscious in his arms. He's saying wow, I barely recognize you. Oh no, that was when he was looking at him when he was in the bed. He's like, wow, you've grown so strong, I barely even recognize you. Him saying that also could mean not just physically, he's saying your ability to choose to be a hero on such a quick, instinctual level and just so consistently just shows how much stronger you become as a person and a hero, not just with using your quirk and your physical strength.
Exactly, because, again, those are representations of how you grow as a person. That is not the development itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Very good episode, though.
With the villains, let's briefly talk on that. Because we got Stitch Face coming in, and now that they've shown him again as the first I just call him Stitches because
Yeah.
there's a character in a game that I like to play. His name's Stitches, and I like the connotation.
And
he has a hook power. That's all I'm gonna say. It's
Right.
kind of funny.
And
But
then
he didn't weird me out as much as Yandere Fang's
Yep.
girl.
When you see the eyes that aren't quite pointing in like the same directions, and they've got that like crazy smile on their face, it's like, okay.
And they're all high pitched, and they're like excited to see Stain and everything. It's like, oh no!
And of course, she was wearing a school uniform because why not? You know, like.
Well, the idea that she's actually in a school somewhere.
Exactly. And I think what they're setting up is that she could be the mysterious transfer student to UA. Like she wouldn't be in their class.
If they go with that trope, that would be terrifying.
But that would be pretty crazy.
What do you read off of their quirks? Like the guy with the Stitch face, I feel like
I don't know.
His is almost impossible to read, except for maybe the idea that he was like.
I would read some kind of endurance like type thing from him, because if you think about like Stitches, the idea is that it's like, okay, some sort of like, you know, monster or zombie Frankenstein kind of thing. And the idea of that is that
Not
it's a
the
monster.
doctor, the actual monster.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, it's
Right,
one of
yeah.
those. Yeah.
Anyway.
But the idea is that it's this sort of undead thing that just, and you can't
stop it.
Right, you can't stop it because it doesn't die when it's killed, because it's already dead.
So he cares a little bit about his appearance in society, so he keeps his face put together after all his fights that he's lost, or maybe
Right.
he's kept winning.
Yeah, that would be really cool to have.
If he has a zombie type quirk, that would be terrifying.
That would be terrifying.
And that's also a great quirk to have that forces you into a negative line of work, because one of the things I was thinking of was Stain. Holy crap, that quirk is very like how could you be a hero with that quirk? It's, I mean, maybe you could. I think you absolutely could, but it's the idea that people would look upon you with a little bit of snooty, like, your quirk is not very heroic.
Right.
If someone had a quirk that was kind of a zombie flesh quirk. Also,
and
the girl, if he's the zombie, then she's the vampire, because she's got the teeth.
That's true.
She's either a cat or she's the vampire, because those are fangs specifically in those 4 areas. And I was like,
a vampire. Okay.
But maybe that's the thing, is that she's in the school uniform because she's actually like got some of the traits of a vampire, and she's actually a lot older. And that's why she's actually even creepier. I don't know. That would be so cool. I feel like having kind of typical monster of the week type quirks as the ones that are put into characters that end up being more complex is interesting.
Right, yes, because the one of the best things you can do with a monster of the week type thing, or whatever, anytime you have some sort of episodic story, is make it so that the episodic episodes are actually important in the overarching narrative. And that's something they could absolutely do with this, because it does. They are taking the time to actually make them feel like individuals.
Quite a lot. I'm almost thinking that this League of Villains thing is actually going to be a thing where we go, oh no, here comes the League of Villains, and it's not a large nameless group, it's a specific group of characters.
Yes, because you can do the thing that they did with USJ, where it's, you know, Shigaraki and Nomu and Kurogiri, yes. But having the just generic, like, oh, there's these people.
We hired a bunch of thugs, and only one of them says a line when he captures Kaminari.
Exactly. It's like, is there some sort of, like, thug registry, like, all right, basic, you know, quirks, you know, that aren't
Kurogiri has a lot of people going inside him.
Did you have to do that? Jeez. Okay, well, anyways, I would be very excited for the point when the armies and the hordes that are going with, you know, Kurogiri and Shigaraki and the Nomus and whatever, and, you know, All for One, are people that we actually know. Because when you get that kind of interaction between characters within the villains, that is so exciting.
It really is, because there's places that the story can go that you're not necessarily ready for.
Yeah, especially if these people are actually loyal to Stain and not loyal to the villains. Because then if Stain ever gets out...
Right. I feel like I feel like we keep bringing up that idea.
But it might not happen.
But it might not happen. It's the idea that Stain has his ideology.
Right.
But even Stain, I think if Stain got out, I don't think he would like any of these characters.
Oh, no.
We brought that up.
Oh, yeah. He totally wouldn't. But it would at least be the idea that, one, there would be a potential for division within the villain ranks.
Sure.
Two,
I like that.
There would be the potential that they would basically form their own separate splinter group from the villains. And then there would be multiple parties all doing their own thing, even if Stain doesn't actually like what they're doing.
Sure.
And that would be really interesting to see, because then there's more possible combinations, because it's not just two sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. This was quite a long one, too.
Yeah, great episode.
If you guys wanted to watch the next My Hero Academia episode reaction, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. And, yeah, get in the Discord. It comes with it for chatting with us about anime, storytelling, or what
All
have
that
you.
jazz.
And we'll see you all later. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.